Welcome back to another episode of Critically Incorrect, your weekly gaming podcast. I'm your host, Brandon, online here today with Charlie. Once again, if you wanted to say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, we're finally at the fabled episode 69, and we have quite a bit to talk about this week. Finally, PlayStation decided to break their silence, and we have a new state of play coming and a lot more. So let's jump right into what we always start off the podcast with, what we've been playing. Charlie, take it away.
Yeah, I actually haven't played a ton this week. I've been pretty busy with work, so I haven't had a chance to play too much. When I have had some free time, I was playing a bit more of Multiverses. The alpha for that has ended now, so I played a few more hours of that over the past few days. Still really enjoying that, so I'm definitely excited to play again when the open beta comes around in July. Other than that, I did reinstall Jedi Fallen Order the other day because I haven't replayed that fully since it first came out. I've played bits and pieces to get the platinum and stuff since then, but I haven't played it since like the PS5 version came out or anything. So I started a replay on that on New Game Plus and stuff, which is quite fun, just playing through and actually like watching the cutscenes and stuff because it's just been a while. So it's nice to enjoy that again because it's been a few years. But other than that, honestly, I haven't really played anything else. That's kind of been it for me this week.
Fair enough. I haven't played really much either. I played like Fortnite with my friend, as like a social activity. So that's been pretty fun. I know they're ending the season soon, so that's cool. Besides that, I did boot up Elden Ring for like literally 3 minutes today. And then I was like, do I know these controls still? And I went to like the nearest enemy camp, and yeah, I still know the controls. But then I was like, I probably should be productive and start working on some other things. Because I did watch like 6 hours of like Stranger Things and Obi-Wan. So yeah, that's the closest I've gotten to going back to Elden Ring. But hey, I booted up the game, so there's that. But yeah, I'm probably going to be playing a lot more in like a week or two. I'm about to start up summer, but just been busy these last few weeks as I ramp up on like final projects and stuff. So yeah. Anyways, we will talk about Obi-Wan, the first two episodes, and like the first few episodes of Stranger Things season 4 at the end of the episode. So if you want to hear us like talk about that stuff, skip to the end. Obviously, that'll be after the gaming stuff, since this is a gaming podcast. But yeah, I look forward to that. Timestamps, as always, will be in the description below. But anyways, let's start off with probably the most exciting news story of the week, and that's the fact that Sony has announced a new state of play for next Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, which is 6 p.m. in the East Coast, and if you're in the UK, it's going to be like 11 o'clock for you in the UK, or, in Europe, probably later at like midnight. So yeah, all they've announced so far is it's like a 30-minute showcase featuring third-party reveals and surprises, as well as sneak peek at a bunch of PSVR 2 titles. So yeah, there's quite some exciting things there. Obviously, Charlie and I are very excited for the VR news, and I'd say as well for like the third-party releases or announcements, because there could be some cool stuff out of that. So I guess I'll start off real quick with some of my predictions and stuff like that, just off the cuffs, nothing like really formal here. I think we'll finally see Final Fantasy 16 get an update, just because Square Enix has always been vocal that, they've been ready to show off this game soon. So this just makes sense, right? I also think that we'll probably see like whatever Astro team is doing with like, VR2. I feel like that will be like the first game they show off, or one of the first games. Maybe not the first one, because that's probably a bad impression, but like one of the first games you show up for VR2. We'll probably get an update on that Horizon game maybe. And then besides that, it's kind of weird because like we don't really know what a lot of teams are working on. There's been rumors of like a Killzone VR game as of really recently, so we could see something like that. I do expect to see like a lot of third-party support, so maybe Valve will be here with Alex, although I wouldn't be surprised if that goes either way, but that would be a really big get that I'm sure they want. I feel like a lot of this will be like PC VR games that are currently not on PSVR because of like technical and just like hardware limitations. We'll finally like see announcements for that stuff. So like I wouldn't even be surprised if like Boneworks also gets shown off here or something like that. But in terms of like first party, I'm kind of questioning it because like we don't even know if what's that team called, London Studios, working on PSVR 2, just because of some of their job listings have been kind of like hinting at that they might be doing some more like traditional games. But I feel like a Blood and Truth 2 would make sense personally. That's like a really big want. But yeah, Charlie, what do you expect from this state of play? Are you excited? What do you think we'll see in terms of VR and non-VR?
Honestly, I don't have a ton of like crazy predictions because I just don't know. I think the ones that I would like say off the cuff were kind of the same kind of ones you were saying, right? So stuff like Boneworks could potentially show up. I think it's possible, since it is one of those games that if you're in like remotely interested in VR, even on like PSVR, you probably know what it is. So it would be a cool get to have. Alex, like you said, could be either way. Like, I'm sure Sony really want it on VR, but whether Valve want to show it off at an event or they'll just announce it themselves, who knows? I think if I was to have like a bold like first party prediction, I want to say Insomniac will have something VR related. Um, Purely because they have a background doing VR, right? And it's been a few years since the VR team did anything, because Stormlands, I think, was the last thing they did, which is about 3 years ago now. So if I was to like go crazy, I would say that they'll show off some kind of Spider-Man VR thing. I feel like that's what Sony should do. It's like the most logical thing, because not only would it be a really cool game to just have for VR, but also it would sell VR headsets like crazy. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens at some point. Whether that gets announced here, if it is a thing that happens, I don't know. But I feel like that's your kind of end of state of play. Here's one more VR game that we're working on. I don't think it would be anything for launch or anything like that. But it would be a cool one to have, or even just like a tech demo or something. I don't know. But yeah, other than that, I really don't know. Third party wise, probably another trailer for Hogwarts Legacy, just because they seem to have a really good partnership with that. Maybe a Gotham Knights trailer, since, you know, it's starting to get closer and closer to launch now, and they might want to show off a bit more, especially after kind of the lackluster reveal for a lot of people with the last gameplay. So maybe we get another trailer here. But yeah, honestly, it could be anything. I think Final Fantasy 16 is probably very likely. If it wasn't a state of play and it was a full Sony event, I would have said Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2, but because it's a state of play and it's only like 30 minutes long, I don't think it'll be here. Just because it's not enough time to show off a ton of VR games, plus like 2 Final Fantasy titles, one of which you probably want to show a large amount of gameplay for with 16, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Anything could happen, really, but I'm excited for it. I think it has a lot of potential to be one of the better state of plays.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just some other ones I was thinking while you were talking as well. This is like such a bold one, but I'd hope they'd do like Resident Evil Village for VR, just because I know there was like initial rumors, and I feel like it's too late, but like just because it did happen for like 7, and it was such a hit, that would be amazing. Other ones, I was thinking like Firewall, that like good like PvP shooter, could have like a cool update. I feel like that game was really cool, but it was like limited by a PSVR's technology, right? I mean, that's like the story of a lot of games there, but that would be really cool to see get like an update. And maybe Gran Turismo 7, since they did do some stuff, I think, on VR with PSVR 1, and we just saw GT7 come out, so maybe that's time. But yeah, a lot of exciting stuff. I feel like this is where like a lot of cool surprises could come out. But I definitely like your Spider-Man pick, because I feel like that's one, obviously like a developer that's really experienced in VR. Marvel's a publisher that has been wanting to do VR. We saw them do Iron Man VR with Sony. And then 3, it just, you know, it would sell well. Like, that's like literally, as you said, like a system seller right there. So yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that is very exciting if that does happen. That'd be crazy if Insomniac's working on just like 3-4 games. Absolutely wild. Anyways, we'll move on to another news story regarding PlayStation, this time with the movie/TV side of things, and we saw some new projects get announced. Namely, Gran Turismo is apparently getting a movie, and Horizon is getting a Netflix TV show. So, yeah, some interesting picks here. I think I'll give my thoughts real quick here. I think a Gran Turismo movie is kind of stupid. I feel like that's like the most arcadey IP that PlayStation has, or at least one that doesn't really have like the need for like a cinematic movie behind it. You know, that being said, it could work. I mean, we saw the Need for Speed movie come out, but that wasn't really that great, but I didn't think it was like terrible. Besides that, obviously we know God of War is already having an Amazon TV show. Just really seems like Sony's trying to get a lot of their IPs in other media forms here. So yeah, very, very interesting. I think a Horizon TV show could work, but I don't know. I know there's like a lot of good lore in Horizon, so it could work out, and the story is pretty decent. It's just, I don't know what they would do with that. I'd kind of like to see them tackle like a different side of the world of Horizon, so maybe don't go with Aloy, go with like some other character. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Charlie? I know like besides that, like the Neil Blomkamp is eyed to direct the Gran Turismo movie. But yeah, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, the Gran Turismo one's weird because the original thing from whatever website it was that broke this news was that Gran Turismo was going to be a show, and then I think it was Deadline were reporting that they'd heard that it's actually a movie. Neil Blomkamp is such a weird pick. Like, he is a horror sci-fi director, so I don't know why he'd be doing a movie about cars unless it's got very little to do with just cars. Because he did stuff like District 9 and Chappie. And he was gonna do Alien 4, so like that kind of tells you what kind of director he is. That being said, he is a great director, so I'd like it'd be an interesting pick. Like I said, the God of War Amazon show, we heard about it hadn't like been officially, confirmed by Sony. It was just reported on, but now we know it's actually happening. And the Horizon one's interesting. Like you were saying, the lore and stuff is pretty in depth for Horizon, but I just don't know whether I want to see the story from the game kind of told on a Netflix show. Like, I just don't know if it's interesting enough to carry that. But I'd like to see some other stuff in the world being done. But I imagine it'll just be a retelling of the game, right? That seems like the most like logical thing because it's probably easier for them to do. But yeah, definitely cool to see that they're stretching out into more stuff. Interesting that they're going with multiple different like films and shows, but then also different places they're putting them. So I guess it's just Sony are kind of testing the waters with different studios and seeing what happens. Obviously, that's 3 different networks, 2 streaming services and 1 TV network with HBO. So they're clearly just trying to see what's going to stick with any of these, and I imagine whichever one does the best, they'll end up sticking with them for a while. So yeah, interesting to see how it turns out, but I imagine they're all a ways off yet. And then we've got stuff like the Ghost of Tsushima movie, and was there anything else? I feel like that was it, but yeah.
I think Sweet Tooth was also getting.
Oh yeah, Twisted Metal,
a show with Anthony Mack or something.
And that's on another streaming service, right? I can't think what one.
That was like, wasn't that like what's that one? Peacock
Is
or
it
something
Peacock?
like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I think so.
Either way, I feel like that's the most promising one, just because I feel like you can go like any direction you want and not have to be like faithful to like the IP as much. But yeah, that's weird. What's the furthest one? Definitely probably like the Last of Us one, I imagine, right? So that one will be out soon, probably like spring next year or something like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing when we finally get a trailer for that, because I believe that will be cool. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I definitely agree with you. They're just throwing darts on the board and seeing which one generates the most profit, and they'll stick with that one. But I don't know. I feel like it will be HBO's The Last of Us, but that's just
Probably,
me.
Yeah.
It just seems like the most quality one so far. I mean, granted, it's the only one that's like in production at the moment, but yeah. Anyways, we'll move on to God of War Ragnarok. Yeah, some promising God of War Ragnarok news has come out. And that's the fact that it was rated in Korea, which, sounds like it's nothing at first glance, but if you look at tendencies like between like past titles and when they've gotten the rating and when they've released, this game possibly could be coming out soon. So I think the soonest example I have to show is and the most recent example I have to show is, I think, Demon Souls and Spider-Man Miles Morales both got rated in like August of 2020, and they both released in November of 2020. So it was like a few months before. That would have been 3 months before. So we could be seeing possibly God of War Ragnarok, hit this year. I think this solidifies that it's going to hit this year. I don't see it being rated and then it coming out in 2023. I don't feel like that happens very often. So I definitely think it's going to be out here soon. If I was a betting man, I'd probably say like September. I think September makes a lot of sense. I feel like Sony still doesn't like doing like fall like titles. I mean, we saw that with the PS5, but that was because obviously the console dropped in the holidays. But September seems to make the most sense. I don't know. I just feel like you wouldn't want to compete with like Call of Duty and stuff like that if you're Sony. But yeah, very exciting. I think this also probably confirms we're going to get like a God of War State of Play sometime in the next few weeks. They're probably doing this one, and then God of War will have its like own dedicated one in the coming weeks. But yeah, very exciting. This is probably the most concrete stuff. Like I'm on Team Believer for 2022 now. What do you think about this, Charlie?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Like you said, this stuff has a pretty good track record with it lining up a few months before the game actually hits. So, like you, I think September's the most likely date that it'll fall into. I don't think they want to go any further than that because typically they don't like to release games sort of that October to December period. And I think August is just too early based on when this is rated, and I feel like we would have heard something by now if it was coming in August. So yeah, I think September's likely. I think what was it, Spider-Man also dropped in September, so you know they've used that month before, so I wouldn't be shocked. I'm just glad to see that it seems like it's in a good state if they're sending it off to get rated in different countries and stuff. So must be coming along nicely. And like I said, I think we get a dedicated God of War State of Play probably, you know, beginning of July if I had to guess, because they probably won't have one in the same month as this one. I don't know though. Have they ever done 2 State of Plays in the same month?
They did do the like Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima State of Plays within like a few weeks from each other. Okay. I do think it would probably be June. I feel like it's too late to announce like a release date in July, but yeah, that's just me. I actually wouldn't be surprised if it's at the State of Play. I don't know, like I don't expect it to, and I don't think you should expect it to, but they didn't say don't expect to see God of War Ragnarok here, which I feel like Sony normally would like be concrete, because in the past they've usually been like no PSVR2 news or something like that. They didn't really say that, and I feel like everyone has been saying where's God of War Ragnarok, where's God of War Ragnarok, that Sony should have said that if they didn't have it here, but maybe that's just me.
I mean, maybe they have like a trailer here, an announcement.
I think it'll be something
maybe
small.
say. I wouldn't be surprised if it is there, if they said, "Hey, if you want to see more God of War, we're gonna have, you know, a State of Play in a few weeks."
But I also think if they do show it, it will take away from like the PSVR2 announcements. So probably maybe they won't have that here. I don't know. They could play their cards differently. I definitely think we're prime time for like a State of Play sometime, but I definitely think it would have to be in the month of June if it does come out in September, but that's just me. But yeah, interesting times. Either way, we should see the game hopefully soon. Who knows, maybe they'll just show up at Summer Game Fest and then no one will be right on their predictions, and we'll be like, what the fuck, Sony?
If I was to guess as well, I would imagine this confirms that we probably don't get a full-on PlayStation showcase till September now. Because I know Jeff Grubb was saying he'd heard mixed things of whether it will be September or June. And I imagine if they're doing this State of Play in June and presumably a God of War one a few weeks after, they probably won't do a full-on showcase then. I imagine they wait until, you know, end of the summer after Gamescom and stuff, like they did last year. And then they can just show off the other stuff and probably have like a launch trailer for God of War. Would be my guess now.
So weird, because then like I'm guessing, I mean, probably guaranteed now Last of Us Remake isn't hitting this year, because like you wouldn't want to drop it in October a month after God of War, right? So yeah, I'm guessing that means like the Last of Us Remake will be pushed to next year then, because I feel like you'd want to announce that sooner.
I feel like that could still happen this year, just because there's been so many rumors seem to suggest that that's pretty far along.
But you think that would be announced in like September and come out in like a month or two?
I mean, it could do. If it's just a remake, like, I feel like you don't need a big marketing ramp up for it, because it's not like it's going to be it's not like a brand new game, right? Like, overall, it's going to be very similar to the original still. So, I don't know. I think you could do a reveal then. Who knows? Maybe it shows up at the State of Play, you don't know.
Yeah, bro.
Anything could happen, man, honestly. It's a wild card.
I think it's safe to expect no first party at this upcoming State of Play, but I wish, like I do hope. If you want something not to expect, don't expect Factions 2. Just save yourself the pain. But yeah, Factions 2. I think that's still like spring next year, but yeah, we'll see. It's just so weird, because I feel like they're ready to show off like a first party like State of Play or something like that. It's just, I don't know, I guess they're just giving their studios more time, and you know, I guess they're doing the EA route where it's like, if we don't need to show, we don't have to show right now. Like, the only things we need to show right now are like the things that third parties want to show at the moment, and then some VR titles. The VR stuff is surprising to me, because I feel like you'd show off the Last of Us Remake and other things before PSVR 2 if it's not coming out until like next year. But yeah, I don't know, Sony continues to surprise me. And I guess we'll move on to another news story regarding Sony, and this is Returnal. So Returnal has the possibility of coming to PC. It was found on the Steam database, and it's also been, I believe, found earlier on the NVIDIA leak that happened a while ago. So this one to me makes the most sense, just because I know Returnal wasn't like performing the best. It's also just one of those IPs that, like, if Uncharted's coming to PC to double dip, then they're definitely gonna do Returnal. Like, now that the sacred IPs like God of War and Uncharted have touched PC, like, Returnal just is a no-brainer, right? Like, if you have an IP that just has been out for over a year, especially if it like underperformed, right? Like, yeah, it's just a no-brainer. You'd do that. I feel like it's also like a game that would fit really well on Steam. It's just like, you know, a very different Sony game where it's more roguelikes, which we've seen blown up over like the past few years and is a, you know, very popular genre. So this doesn't surprise me in the slightest. What about you, Charlie?
Yeah, same here. I think when I first saw it, I was a little bit shocked, and then I thought, oh wait, no, this kind of makes sense, right? Like, most of the games that they've been putting on PC, it's because their sales have started to slow down. I imagine Returnal's been like that for a while. I think they said that it exceeded their expectations and it sold
Okay.
well, because, you know, they didn't have crazy expectations, probably because of when it was releasing, right? Like, it could only sell as many PS5s as there were in the market, and at the time it was a bit more limited, so I imagine that it was never crazy high. I don't know if it was Sony themselves that said it exceeded it, but I seem to remember reading that it did well sales-wise overall.
Apparently it sold
they were happy with it.
560,000 copies as of November of last year. So
I mean, that's not bad.
that isn't bad for a new IP.
You know, for an indie dev, especially at the time when they weren't owned by Sony, right? So it's not really first party. But yeah, so I don't think they were super disappointed with it. But obviously, this will really help sales as long as they don't make it, you know, full price. I think it needs to be cheaper on PC, because I feel like because this will be if it is the same price as it was on PS5, this will be the first PS5 exclusive that comes to PC, right?
That is true. That's pretty big, yeah.
Because all the others were all PS4 games that were brought to PC. So I don't know what the reaction will be if it's, you know, $70 or whatever. Because what else? I think Final Fantasy VII Remake is like the only PC game that was that price point. I think everything else has been cheaper.
That did come over for $70, yeah. But that was also Square Enix. But yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what they do there. I think it needs to be a bit cheaper, because otherwise I imagine people will kick off, because, you know, people always do. But yeah, I think it makes sense. It's cool to see that it's coming. The way it leaked though was kind of dumb, because it was literally just some random app ID on SteamDB, but it has Steam tags linked to it that sounded like a roguelite, and then one of them was like Tower of Sisyphus or something, which is the name of that update they did recently. So people are like, okay, no, this must be Returnal. So yeah, it seems like it's, if I was to guess, it's probably like coming August time or something like that. It's probably relatively soon. If it's showing up on SteamDB and stuff, but who knows? Like, it could come whenever, I guess, because it's, if I was gonna say like a year exclusive or whatever, then that's already passed now, right? So it could be any point.
Is Uncharted still coming to PC in June? Because I feel like that's been so quiet.
Wasn't it like the leak date was like July something, wasn't it?
I can't remember. It was June 20th.
That'll probably be at the state of play then.
Yeah, that's true.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do a trailer and say it's coming to PC then.
Yeah, then that's also technically third. Well, no, yeah, that is technically third party, because I don't think Naughty Dog's doing the PC port. Actually, I don't know how that would work. Probably first party, so whatever. But yeah, that's probably a prediction for a state of play. Anyways, we'll move on to the Quarry, a small news story, and that's the fact that the game is still coming out on June 10th, but the online multiplayer mode is getting delayed to July 8th. And they just said that the reason behind this is that they just want like a smooth launch, what I think makes sense for this kind of game. Just because I guess, you know, when this game does drop, you don't want to be worrying about like your servers and everything like that. It's much more easier to just make sure that everything's working and then add it in later. Still kind of a disappointment. I was planning on playing this with Kim, but yeah, that does suck. Looking forward to this game regardless, though, because looks to be really, really good. You planning on playing the core? I know you said you're planning on playing it with your teammates at your work, right?
Yeah, I'm still planning to play this. I think we're in the midst of like arranging a day or two to all hang out and play it. So we don't have to worry about the online stuff because we'll just be playing it locally. But yeah, I think it makes sense. Rather than delaying the whole game, just delay the online. Plus, they probably know that most people, if they want to play it, aren't going to be playing online. Just because obviously it will require you buying multiple copies anyway. So I imagine they probably looked at their kind of stats for the Dark Picture Games online stuff and thought, yeah, let's just delay it, make sure it's smooth when we can launch it, right, rather than just releasing it now and it being a mess for the few people that are going to use the feature. So yeah, makes sense. It sucks for people that want to play it that way, but it's not too long a delay. It's only a month, right? So it's not too bad.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, we'll move on to a sad story, and that's the fact that there's been layoffs recently at Hangar 13, which I believe we talked about recently, and they're working on like more Mafia stuff. I think they're doing like was it like a reboot, or was it like Mafia
like a
4
prequel or something, right?
or prequel game? Yeah, that seems about right. But yeah, there have been layoffs recently, which sucks, and like the leader put out like a quote that said like, we know the last 6 months have been hell. Yeah, essentially, yeah, they're laying off people. It's kind of weird the way you put it was like very like non-professional, but it is what it is, I guess. Yeah, their focus currently is on Mafia and top spin franchises moving forward. So yeah, it sucks, but it's more the gaming industry for you, I guess. Just sad, but it is what it is. And yeah, any thoughts on that, Charlie?
Same kind of thoughts as you, to be honest. Like, it sucks, but these things happen, right? I wonder if maybe there was some kind of project that didn't work out before they moved on to like this Mafia prequel or something. Because that's typically what happens with these layoffs is something they're working on doesn't pan out and they end up having to lose some staff, which always sucks. But yeah, those usually correlate. So I wonder if it's something to do with that.
Like a publisher's just like, just kidding, guys. Everything you've been working on for like the last years, we want you to work on a prequel instead. And they're like, you're fired. Wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, sucks. Anyways, a little small news story that to me made sense is the fact that the Callisto Protocol game that we've covered over like the last few weeks here is essentially no longer taking place in the PUBG universe. I believe Glenn tweeted this out, or it was something that came out with Game Informer, I know. And they essentially just said like as the game grew and became more ambitious, they kind of just had their own universe for it instead and decided to scrap the whole PUBG universe. I feel like they started off with that because it kind of gave it like an identity, right? Like, oh, it's connected to PUBG, but as the game was announced and as we've seen the trailer and as I'm sure development just continued, kind of didn't really need to just tag along PUBG. Like, it didn't really add anything to the game. If anything, it just added questions and like why. So it made sense to just take away that connection. But they did say like Easter eggs will still be like in the game and like connections like that. What are your thoughts? I imagine pretty similar to mine.
Yeah, I mean, I think at first it was probably just a thing of contractually it had to be, right? Because the studio was made to make a PUBG spin-off. That's what that company was designed for. And then I imagine just as it went on, none of them really wanted to work on that game. I mean, just look at the setting, right? Like, I think they originally said it was like hundreds or thousands of years after the main PUBG game or whatever. So basically they were just saying, we don't want this to have anything to do with current PUBG. But yeah, I mean, I imagine they convinced them as well when they started saying, hey, look, nobody cares about the PUBG story. It's not like you're going to get any PUBG players buying this for the lore, right? Like, I don't think anyone who plays PUBG anymore has ever cared about the lore of that game. So, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense that they can split off. It gives them way more opportunities as well, because they're not tied down by whatever PUBG do lore-wise. I don't really know. I don't pay attention to it. So, but yeah, it's cool to see that it's its own thing. Hopefully this bodes well for, other projects and stuff that they get to work on. Because I think they're meant to be working on some other game as well. So, yeah, it's cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. PUBG is like one of the most like I don't know, like weirdest thing you'd want to like attach a lore to, because it just feels like the most generic like multiplayer battle royale.
Yeah.
Like not generic in a bad way, because obviously the game's really popular for a reason. Like the gameplay's super solid, but in terms of like story and stuff like that, it kind of goes out the window when you talk about PUBG. At least like in terms of what people care about, right? So very weird. Yeah, I imagine, as you said, the team probably just didn't care about making like a PUBG story game, which was pretty obvious. And glad to see that, they're still allowed to make this game and the publisher wasn't having like a fit over it or anything like that. So that's good. And yeah, anyways, we got some CD Projekt Red updates. I believe they had like some earnings call or something like that, talking about how like Unreal Engine 5 development's been pretty swift. The Witcher 4 has entered pre-production. We say Witcher 4 quote unquote because it's like technically what the next Witcher they like calling it. But yeah. And then apparently there's been like details in Cyberpunk's first expansion, so I know like a lot of dialogue leaked online. Charlie, do you know anything else besides that?
Yes,
Besides the dialogue?
so I think that the leaks kind of said that the expansion's going to focus on expanding like Pacifica, which is one of the regions in the game. It was showing that there was like some areas that you can see on the map and were also in the art book and stuff that weren't accessible in the game are going to be part of the expansion. And then there was like some sports arena that will apparently again be in the game, that's currently like outside of the map. I think the leaks were saying something along the lines of there's 7 main story missions and then a bunch of like side missions and like new contracts and activities and stuff for you to do. And they were also saying stuff like Johnny Silverhand isn't really in the game that much in the expansion, probably because they couldn't get Keanu Reeves to come back for scheduling or whatever it was. So they have kind of like story reasons as for why he's not really talking or anything. And then there's references to like some new like NPC character called Songbird, I think it is, who apparently has been referenced in the file since launch. So it seems like it's probably either cut content or just, they've had these expansions planned a long time. So cool to see that some details are leaking, but I mean, it's not meant to be coming out until like next year anyway. So yeah, I haven't looked into like the dialogue stuff because I just don't want to get spoiled. I'd rather just play this stuff when it comes out. But yeah, it just means that they're probably, heads down on development of it right now, which is cool.
I know that like the expansion is supposed to be like during the progress of like or during the events of Cyberpunk 2077 because they said like the ending will reference the DLC if you played it or the expansion. So yeah, interesting that is the case. Makes sense. I'm personally looking forward to going back to it. I haven't really played since that like big 1.5 update, which I know added like housing and stuff like that, but yeah, a lot of changes have happened. I'll probably go back once the DLC gets either announced or released. But yeah, exciting. Anyways, Marvel MMO has apparently been announced for the DC Universe Online. Devs canceled. Honestly, I'm having a hard time reading this, Charlie. What is this?
Oh, that's because I typed it wrong, so that's my bad. Basically, there was a Marvel MMO from the DC Universe Online devs that was announced like 6 months ago, but it's been cancelled, which is really weird, because it didn't get like a full announcement. It was like during a investor thing, they said that they were working on a new MMO with like the Marvel IP. But yeah, basically they just decided to cancel it. Apparently it was just the project just wasn't really finding its feet really. And apparently this isn't the first time that the publishers cancelled a Marvel MMO. Apparently they did this a few years back as well. And instead, because there was a lot of money that was already put into it, apparently that money is just going to be split between their various other MMOs. So I think they said like DC Universe Online and Lord of the Rings Online are probably going to get most of the funds. But yeah, it's a weird one because I feel like a Marvel MMO, especially coming from those devs, could do really well. Lord of the Rings Online's been going since like 2007, 2008. And DC Universe Online has been going since like 2011. So both of these games have been going a long time and they both still do plenty well, right? Like they still do expansions for them. So I'm surprised that they wouldn't have gone ahead with the Marvel MMO. I would have been really interested in it. because I do enjoy MMOs, but I do find them tough to get into when there's been so many expansions and stuff. So I would have liked to get in, from the start on one of these as well. I think, a lot of MMOs, they just look and feel very outdated because it's very rare that MMOs release, right? So it would have been nice to have like a big IP in like with nice visuals and stuff for an MMO, but maybe one day we'll get one from another studio, but it just seems like it's just not destined to be with this publisher.
What's the most recent MMO that's been like big that has released?
I guess
like New World, technically.
A New World, yeah, but even that I think is like dead at this point, which is no shocker. So
interesting. Yeah, MMOs are kind of overwhelming just because, as it is, I can't play my single player games. MMOs are a time commitment for sure. And we'll move on to Lord of the Rings Gollum, which got a release date for September 1st, 2022. So a nice little birthday gift for me, as my birthday is around that time. Did they show off like a new trailer, or did they just release the release date?
It was just, they just showed off like the box art and just said it's coming out then. I imagine this will probably show up at Summer Game Fest, if I had to guess, with like a proper gameplay trailer, because we still haven't really gotten much gameplay-wise from this. They showed snippets at like Future Game thing or whatever, the Future Game show or something, like last year I think was the last time they showed it off. I'm personally really interested in this because it's more set in like the book universe, and it seems to be like a narrative adventure game, which would be interesting. But whether it'll be any good, I don't really know. I feel like I need to see more gameplay, but I'm certainly interested in it. I love Lord of the Rings, so I'll take whatever content I can get, really. But September makes sense. The new like Amazon show's coming out then, so I imagine that's kind of like they want it to be Lord of the Rings month and just have a load of stuff coming out, which is probably a good idea. So it makes a lot of sense.
And it'll be delayed when God of War Ragnarok gets released in September. No, I'm just kidding. But that's cool to see. Anyways, speaking of like tweets revealing announcements, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 got its release date via a tweet, and it's going to be coming out on October 28th. So I think it's like the first time like Call of Duty's been mainly just tweeting out information. Usually we get a trailer by now, but I feel like they're just not ready to show off footage yet, and they want to like keep their traditional like marketing cycle of like May/June, so they're just like meeting in the middle and like still giving us news, but just via tweets, since they're probably not ready to show off trailers yet, which makes sense. I'm looking forward to this just because I don't know, I really liked Modern Warfare, so I feel like this will probably be one of the better Call of Duties in recent years. But I'm still a little bit cautious just because I said the same thing about Vanguard, and I only played like one day of that game. What are your thoughts on that release date? I mean, it's nothing really. It's like, oh yeah, Call of Duty releasing in October, big surprise. So
like you said, it's not really a surprise. It's always like end of October or beginning of November, right? It just rotates every year depending on where the Friday lands. I'm pretty interested in this one. I really enjoyed the last Modern Warfare, so I have high hopes for this. I think the rumored date for the like trailer reveal or whatever for like a proper trailer is the 8th of June, so that'll be the day before Summer Game Fest. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get like a trailer and then like a single player like gameplay demo at Summer Game Fest. I think we got the Black Ops it was Black Ops Cold War like gameplay reveal at like the opening like live at Gamescom like a couple years ago. So they have a partnership with Jeff in some way. They've partnered before. It's just whether Jeff would want to have Activision there, because I know that was a big thing last year with Game Awards on whether he'd have Activision at the show and stuff. So whether that will be a thing again this time, I don't know, but I think it would seem likely that we get some kind of gameplay demo the day after or something there. Just means people don't have to wait around as long to see what's going on with it.
Yeah, be cool to see footage soon. That'd be cool. Anyways, finally we've seen Jedi Survivor be announced. So Star Wars Jedi Survivor was at Star Wars Celebration, and it was finally officially announced. Like the rumor said, it is coming out in 2023, and it is next generation only, so PS5, Xbox Series X/S, and PC. I believe like the story takes place like 5 years after the first game, which, yeah, that's cool. Trailer looked pretty interesting. I don't know, I wasn't the biggest fan of it just because a lot of it just felt vague, but I know, Charlie, you liked the trailer quite a bit, so if you want to give your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think it was a cool like little teaser. That's exactly what it was, right? Like it didn't really say too much. It just showed a few little snippets for people to speculate on. What's really cool with this is there's basically no one in that trailer that anybody knows. They all seem like new characters. At first, a lot of people seem to think that that was like the Grand Inquisitor sat in like the chair thing with Cal's lightsaber. But I know Star Wars have said since then, they posted on like their website that it's a Pauan center. Basically, that's the race of the species that the Grand Inquisitor is, and that he seems to be on the like not separatists, but like the Empire's like home base. I can't even think of the word. I said it earlier to you, Brandon. But basically, like the big city where like the Empire is based, not Coruscant, but like their own like planet. So it looks like either Cal's gonna go there, which would be really interesting, or it's more likely that the Inquisitor or whoever it is that Cal is fighting that seems to beat the hell out of him probably takes his saber and brings it back, and they're using him to like track him or something. But yeah, there's some like weird stuff, like there's some person in a Bacta tank at the end. Nobody really knows who it is. Some people are theorizing that it could be the guy that he's fighting earlier in the trailer, because the guy he's fighting seems to only have one arm, because he's only holding the lightsaber with one arm and you don't see a right arm. So and the guy in the tank seems to maybe only have one arm, but we don't really know who that is. Some people are saying it might be Starkiller from Force Unleashed, and they might be making him canon and making him an Inquisitor, which would be really cool, because he was never canon when the Force Unleashed games came out. Those games were never canon, just because he was so OP that George Lucas refused to make him an official character. And I know Dave Filoni, who did like Rebels and Mandalorian, he really wanted to bring back Starkiller as an Inquisitor in that show, so it'd be cool to see him come back here. Whether he does or not, I don't know. But I'd be interested in seeing that. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a pretty cool little teaser. Hopefully, we don't have to wait too long to see more. I know they said like they can't wait to share more details later this year. I think Jeff Grubb said that he's heard the game's come in February or March, so it's not too far off, right? So I think it's safe to say that we'll probably see something this summer, but I don't know, maybe Summer Game Fest, maybe EA will do their own mini thing for just this game, I don't know, or maybe Gamescom or something, but yeah, I'm really excited for it though. I really enjoyed Jedi Fallen Order. This looks like it's going to be bigger and more ambitious. Obviously it's only next gen, which is really cool to see. I was a bit worried that it would be held back by last gen, so I'm glad it's not going to be. I do wonder if this will be on Unreal 5 or just Unreal 4, because the last game was on Unreal 4, so I wonder if they're going to have it on the new engine, which would be cool. But who knows, because it's coming next year, so it might still be just Unreal 4.
Yeah, that's interesting. That could be one of the first Unreal Engine 5 games, but we haven't had that officially confirmed. So I'm guessing Unreal Engine 4, I feel like they probably also modify Unreal Engine to like meet their needs. So they probably have like a custom version of Unreal Engine 4 knowing Respawn, but interesting. Yeah, I'm very excited for it. As I've been saying, like I see this as like Uncharted, where like Uncharted 1 was a decent game, which I thought Jedi Fallen Order was like a great game. I feel like they're going to do really good things with the sequel. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing gameplay and stuff like that, especially now that it's like next gen only. They could do some really cool stuff with like the SSD. I hope they do it. Like, yeah, like, you know how we saw with like Demon Souls and Ratchet and Clank. Like, imagine like hyper driving, just going off into space and then like instantly going into like a new galaxy. That'd be really, really cool. So yeah, a lot of potential for this game, and I can't wait to see it soon. So yeah. Anyways, that wraps up the news portion of the podcast, and I guess we'll talk about some TV stuff here that Charlie and I have been watching, so both Obi-Wan and Stranger Things Season 4. I guess we could start with Obi-Wan. So I think we both seen the first 2 episodes, which are the only 2 episodes that are out at the moment, because obviously Disney Plus does it weekly. I thought they were pretty decent. I think the budget kind of feels a little weird. Like I know a lot of people are talking about the Leia chase sequence, and I caught that myself. Like that sequence felt very stupid, and like I was like, come on, bro. Like they're like slipping and falling, and it's really hard to describe if you haven't seen it. But yeah, just essentially just felt really like cheesy, and it felt like I was watching like a high school play or something like that. And then like other scenes are really good too, but like there's just like a few of the chase sequences. Like I know that first sequence when the Jedi gets I'll just try to be very light on spoilers, but like when they do the first chase sequence with like the Jedi, and like one of them uses the Force to like pull the thing down, they're like, oh, we can't chase him because he like pulled down like some banners in front of us. I'm like, bruh. Just felt very stupid. But like in terms of the story, the reason why like Obi-Wan's doing the stuff he's doing makes sense. I guess I already kind of spoiled like a character that's in this, but whatever. Yeah, I'll put spoiler tags in the discussion, and I'll try not to spoil for Stranger Things season 4. But I feel like if you're interested in this, you probably have seen this already. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was pretty good. Like it's nice to see, obviously, Ewan McGregor, whatever. How do you call it? How do you pronounce his last name? Yeah, it's really cool to see him back. They're doing a lot more with him than I thought. Like I thought he would just be kind of like the same character, but they're trying to do a lot of development with this character, that he's not the same person that he was. Because when you meet him in A New Hope, he kind of seems like the same guy somewhat. So it seems like he's like has, you know, kind of like an arc here that he's gonna have to go through until we see him, you know, go back to the person that he was in A New Hope. So interesting stuff there. But yeah, I thought it was all right. Decent, like probably around my expectations level, maybe slightly below, but like it's still really, really good. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Charlie, the big Star Wars fan?
Yeah, I'm kind of like you, where like I think it was all right. Like I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was like really good or anything. I thought it was a decent start. There's some weird stuff in there. Like, yeah, you said the Leia chase sequence. Like, I watched it with one of my mates from work. We both sat down and watched them, and when we watched that scene, we were both just like, "What is going on? Like, how are these three grown-ups able to like, or unable to catch up to this like 8-9-year-old girl that's like running at the speed of a snail?" I don't understand. And then one of them like runs into a branch at like that they saw 10 meters away, and then they just come to a full halt, and it's really weird. I don't know, that chase sequence wasn't great. I'm really liking what Ewan McGregor's doing. Like his like, I loved him in the prequels. Like he's probably one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars anyway.
I love the way he talks.
But yeah, just seeing him come back, like he's just stepped straight back into the role, like the mannerisms and just like the whole like scratching his beard and stuff, and like the way he talks, it's all done really well. Some of the side characters I think were cool. The Jedi at the start was like Benny Safdie is playing the Jedi, who is one of my favorite directors. He did Uncut Gems and Good Time, if you've seen those films. So it's cool to see him doing more acting roles, which is fun. Kumail Nanjiani is like the fake Jedi, I think was really funny. I think that was like perfect role for him, so I really liked that. I don't know how I feel about the new Inquisitor, Reva. She doesn't seem to like deliver her lines quite like menacingly. I don't know. I feel like the only line I liked that she delivered was like the final one to do with Vader. I thought that was quite well done. Although I don't like the idea that the Inquisitors seem to just stop her every time she's actually doing something useful for them, which is really weird. I don't think they portray the Inquisitors great in this show so far. Especially the end of the second episode. I don't really know what their plan is there, but obviously it's pissed off a lot of people. Just because it doesn't really make sense. They seem to imply that the Grand Inquisitor dies, but he can't be because he's in Rebels.
I saw something that he has like apparently 2 stomachs or something like that, so he's like gonna live. I don't know.
I don't know.
I didn't even know that he was from Rebels. But
yeah, because like the character is a Rebels character. That's where he's from. So, and Rebels is set after this. So he has to be alive. I know some people were theorizing that like Well, the Grand Inquisitor's a title, so it could just be a different guy. But I was like, the likelihood of it being the same species and he sounds similar, and whilst he doesn't look the exact same, looks reminiscent of the Grand Inquisitor. Like the likelihood of them getting another one that looks so similar would be very weird. So I hope that's not the route they go down. But I imagine it was just there for people who haven't seen Rebels to try and throw them off. But it's a weird choice. I don't really know why they did that. Either way, but yeah, overall I'm like pretty positive on it, I guess. It's only 6 episodes, so we've already seen like a third of the show, which sucks.
Shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, because it's just like a limited series, so it's only 6 episodes, which is a shame. But I'm hoping it ramps up a bit now. I'm hoping that we get some proper Vader stuff in the next few episodes. I really want to see him just basically fucking stuff up. Like, I just want to see him like killing Jedi or something.
More
like,
Rogue One.
Yeah, more Rogue One stuff. Like, I just want to see Darth Vader doing Vader things. We just haven't really gotten that. So, I think there's a lot of potential there. And I just want some cool lightsaber fights. Obviously, I like the idea that Obi-Wan doesn't want to use his saber. You know, I like the idea that he struggled to use the Force. It makes sense. He hasn't used it in 10 years. Like, so I like all that stuff, but I do want to see him have like a cool fight. Because since Disney acquired Star Wars, I don't think we've yet to get a good lightsaber fight. So I hope we get one in this show. But yeah, overall, I'm enjoying it so far. Like, anything Star Wars, I'm gonna watch. But yeah, I'm more positive on it than I thought I would be. I was going into it with pretty low expectations just because the idea of the show doesn't sit well with me, like, plot-wise. But yeah, I'm more positive on it than I thought I'd be. But I'm like, yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the episodes, but I just don't know how much they can do with, like, 4 episodes left. But yeah.
That surprises me. I thought we had like 10 or something, but yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it is what it is. I thought the plot point makes sense, but it also just, you could tell it's like the way he was like regarding it. I was like, I know fans are going to be upset, but why am I doing this? And they're like, oh, because you got to do this. And he's like, oh, fine. But yeah, it is what it is. I wish the budget was up, or like especially with those chase sequences, because like obviously this is Star Wars, right? There's like no reason for it to be like as bad as what it was for like that chase sequence. But yeah, looking forward to watching the rest of the season. And yeah, still need to watch the Boba Fett show. I have not watched that yet, but I've heard the Mandalorian stuff and that is good. So
yeah, there's 2 good episodes in Boba Fett, and they're the 2 episodes where Boba Fett doesn't show up. So yeah.
I'm guessing you're gonna need to watch Boba Fett to understand Mandalorian if he has.
Yeah, it's literally there's 2 episodes in Boba Fett that are literally just Mandalorian 2.5. Like, so yeah, you could probably skim over the other episodes, to be honest, and then just watch the ones that he's in. But I mean, I guess feel free to sit and watch it all, but I personally didn't like Boba Fett other than those few episodes. So
okay, for sure. And then I guess we'll just mention here, like, isn't Mandalorian season 3 like February of 2023? So pretty soon. So that's exciting. I'm sure. I hope they won't fumble that. I know Boba Fett and Obi-Wan's been better than Boba Fett, but Boba Fett wasn't super well received. So yeah, I'm sure they know what they're doing with Mandalorian. I'd hope so. So
I think, I think the one I'm more worried about is probably Ahsoka, just because they showed some footage of that today, like, to people at Celebration, and like I did see some like cam footage of it, and it basically looks like it's live action Rebels, which I'm like, I'm happy because they're bringing back Rebels characters, but at the same time, I'm worried that they're not going to be as good as, you know, the animated versions. Because whilst I like the version of Ahsoka in live action, I don't think she's as good as the animated version or anything. So I'm kind of like hesitant about that show, but I hope that one's good, because that one's got a lot more riding on it, because it seems like it's probably going to drive the plot forward for Mando a lot more. But yeah, overall I'm like pretty positive on Star Wars shows still at the moment. So
yeah, cool. And yeah, I guess we'll jump into Stranger Things season 4. So Charlie has seen the first 4 episodes. I've seen the first 5. God, these episodes are so long. Yeah, it's been good so far. Obviously, I wouldn't have watched the first 5 if it wasn't like good. I guess I'll give my thoughts on it. So far, it's I think the first thing you'll notice is the budget's gone way up. Like each episode feels like a movie, honestly, and you'll realize that because of how much money Netflix has thrown at this season of Stranger Things, which to me is still bizarre. But I guess they're hoping that people will like hear about it or like see a YouTube clip online and be like, "Shit, this has like a really high production. I should like buy a Netflix subscription and like check it out in like its full like glory, right?" So I'm guessing that's the reason why. But in terms of like the actual plot, I think it's decent. Like I think it's good. I don't know how I'd like it compared to the other seasons. You usually gotta wait until the very end. But I just feel like, I don't know, a lot of Stranger Things always feels like really similar to each other. So like each season kind of goes through an arc where they're like, oh, we gotta do this again. And then it's like the first episode, oh, Joyce is acting crazy again. Is she actually seeing stuff, or is it like real? And it's like, bro, it's like you're using the same tropes every single season. But like it's done well. I like how they have multiple locations, obviously with like California, Hawkins, and Russia. So like that makes it feel fresh, especially with like the new increase in budget. The season is definitely a lot more gorier and like bloodier, and like stakes are higher. So it does feel that way. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season progresses, because I'm guessing it's only going to get more messed up, as usually the second half of Stranger Things is a lot more messed up than the first. So yeah, I am looking forward to seeing how it all ends up concluding. I'm kind of annoyed that we don't get the full entire season, just because I don't know, Stranger Things to me is one of those seasons, or like one of those shows that I like that they just release every single episode. I get wanting to save volume 2 and having like people discuss about it, but at that point I'm like, just make it weekly then, because just giving everyone like 7 episodes and then being like, oh yeah, the final 2 like conclusions, it's like just giving the whole entire story and not giving you the ending. Like it doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, besides that, I think the show's really good. Characters are interesting. Some of them aren't like super interesting this season as compared to last season's. Like Dustin and Steve don't get as many like cool moments as they did in season 3, and I get that they want to keep it interesting and not have the same dynamics. But yeah, I just prefer season 3 content for them. I think Robin and Nancy get some cool stuff. But yeah, I don't want to get into like specifics in case people haven't watched it yet. But that's my thoughts currently. What are your thoughts, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I don't know, like, my biggest thing with it so far is like I don't really know where they're going with it plot wise. I feel like all the other seasons, there's a very big thing at stake. Like there's always some like really crazy danger. I don't think in this one the danger seems to be as high, at least where I'm at in the story right now. Like obviously there's a bad guy that they're trying to stop, but it doesn't feel like it's a massive world-ending threat. So I don't really know where that's going to escalate to. I think that's also me going into it knowing there's only one more season. So in my head, I'm like, there's got to be something really big that's going to happen, and it's going to end on something big to set up, the final season. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still like really enjoying it. I don't have any problems with it. I think, like you said, the budget is crazy higher than the other ones, not just in terms of like length, but effects wise. The amount of like licensed music in this compared to the others, like I think in the first episode, within like the first 10 minutes, there's like 3 different like big 80s tracks, which I was like, clearly they got a much higher budget for this stuff. But yeah, overall I'm enjoying it. The length is like pretty good. I was a bit worried that it would feel like bloated and have a lot of filler, just because obviously they're all like over an hour long, and then I know the final episode coming out in July is like 2.5 hours long. It's like longer than Infinity War, and I was like, isn't that...
It's like, I think episode 9 is like an hour and a half. It's like, I think both of them back to back are like longer.
So,
like the last episode's 90 minutes.
So no, episode 8 is an hour and a half, and then episode 9 is 2.5 hours. Wait. Yeah.
What?
Yes, yeah. I'll let you look it up. But yeah, so that one I'm like especially worried about, because I'm like, I just don't see how they keep it, entertaining for that amount of time when you've already had 9 hours before that or whatever. That it will I guess closer to like 10, 12 or something if they're like an hour and a half each. So yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. I hope it keeps up the momentum. Well, I've got 3 episodes left until the break, so I'm enjoying it so far. I the thing is with Stranger Things, I don't think they've really had a bad season. Like, it's one of those shows where so far it's been consistently good. I do worry that maybe the ending won't hit well, because I feel like the show always ends in the same spot of just, hey, we defeated the evil, now we're going back to normal. And then it's like, oh wait, no, there's something else. So, yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes, but I'm not like, I don't know. I'm not super engaged in like the overall plot, because I just don't. It doesn't feel as big a threat as say last season to me personally.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a setup season in a way, just because like as soon as like the cliffhanger at the end of last season with Hopper, I'm like, great, all of season 4 is gonna just be him escaping, and like it's like the same thing I said with like Cobra Kai. Like I feel like this next season is also gonna be like a setup season in a way. Yeah, I feel like a lot of stuff with 11 doesn't make sense to me right now. Like I don't understand what they're trying to do with her, and a lot of it just feels like familiar ground, which is kind of annoying because I really like the freedom that she had in season 3. But yeah, I don't know. This also, I think season 3 felt more memorable. Like I feel like that tone was like really cool with it being like summer, 4th of July, mall, and this one just kind of feels like, I don't know, like California, and just like a lot of locations, I guess, is like the theme. But yeah,
I think one of my other like biggest issues with it is it actually has the problem I had with sort of like the middle to end of the newer Star Wars trilogy, which is just, I want all the characters to be together because they're cool and I want them all to hang out together, and we don't get that. And I feel like the season will end with them actually coming all together, and so we'll have to wait a few years before we actually see it. Just because obviously they like where I'm up to, some of them are on their way back to Hawkins, and then you've got some of them in Russia, and I don't think like I want to see them all hang out together and talk to each other again, but I don't think that's gonna actually happen until probably next season, which I'm like kind of about. And Star Wars had that issue for me, so yeah.
I'm conflicted because I do like having the cast all like talk to each other, but I also like how global the season feels. Like literally, you're like in California, Alaska, Germany, Russia, I mean, and fucking Hawkins, and it's like I don't know. I like the fact that everyone's all split up. I feel like the pairing and maybe the chemistry could work better, but yeah, I do miss like certain characters interacting, like you said.
Yeah.
But I do also like how global this season feels, which is really really cool. Yeah, because every other season has felt like it's only been in Hawkins, and like it's kind of crazy because I was like looking back through like just skimming through the past seasons, and like literally every other season has just been in Hawkins, and this one has like 4 locations right now.
So yeah, I think there's only that one episode where 11 goes off on her own, which is probably my least favorite episode of the entire show, where she goes off with those like emo kids or whatever. Yeah, that one's not great, but I think that's probably the only one where they're not in Hawkins. So, yeah, like I agree, it's nice to see the different locales and stuff. Like especially Russia's kind of a big change of pace, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess that's all my thoughts. Nothing really else to add. Do you have anything else you want to add to it?
No, I guess that's it for me as well.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone else is watching it, make sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Obviously, if you're going to comment down spoilers, probably give a spoiler tag or maybe save that for the Discord. But yeah, interesting to know what you guys think about that. It's rare for me to be watching TV, so to have like 2 shows back to back that I'm like really interested in drop like the same night was cool.
And then The Boys next week as well.
Yeah, I forgot about that. The Boys, yeah, next week. That's going to be awesome. That's also weekly, I believe. Yeah, that's weekly, so that's cool.
Is it weekly? Oh, crap.
They do normally. Remember, because Invincible was weekly. So yeah.
Yeah, because the last season of The Boys was weekly as well. I think the first season dropped all at once, but yeah, I think the last season was
I think they'll do what Obi-Wan did, where they'll do like 2 episodes on opening weekend, and then we'll get like 1, which I think is what Invincible also did. So probably 2 episodes. I'm looking forward to that quite a bit because it's been like so long since The Boys was out. It was like I got into it like. Been like 2 years, since almost 2 years since I think it was like September 2020, like a few months before the PS5 came out, that The Boys season 2 drops, and like we're finally getting season 3 now. Probably just because of COVID delays and all that is why, but yeah, it's finally here. I'm looking forward to it. Should be good. But yeah, that has been episode 69 of Critically Incorrect. We'll see you next week for episode 70. Take care.
See you later.